Every Pokemon journey has to start somewhere. Before you can catch any other Pokemon, battle any gyms, and explore the world, there's one very important choice you have to make: your starter Pokemon. In today's video, we will be discussing what a starter Pokemon is, their stats, designs, and evolutions, plus some in-lore abilities that they can do. Now, with the first question in today's video, what is a starter Pokemon? A starter Pokemon is the very first Pokemon a trainer receives at the beginning of their adventure. Unlike most Pokemon, starters are usually given to trainers by a Pokemon professor. While getting your starter, it is usually the first Pokemon in the beginning of the game, but you also carry it throughout becoming the champion at the end of the game. And because of that, most people form special bonds in having it as their first partner. And for most Pokemon games, the player is usually given three different choices for a starter Pokemon: a grass type, a fire type, and a water type. This has been a tradition since the first Pokemon games. One of the greatest, but sadly not true myths, I believe, are that all three of the starter types have a form to follow, such as the Chinese zodiac, the prehistoric animals, and weapons. But since the newest generation, I feel like this is just less and less true. But another question about the traditions are, why is it always the three types? And I feel like the most obvious answer is the balance between them. Grass beats water, water beats fire, and fire beats grass. It's like a rock, paper, scissors system that allows not one starter to be greater than the other. Something that all the starters can do is evolve. As your starter gains experience from battles, it becomes stronger and it eventually evolves. You can see that most starter Pokemon have three evolutionary stages that allow them to grow alongside you along with your adventure. While Pikachu and Eevee are considered starters in some games, I believe them to be an exception to this rule. But now, since you know what a starter is and why people love them so much, I will allow you to pick a starter for yourself. Right now, there's only 9 generations we're going to be choosing from, only because we don't know the final evolutions for the starters in Winds and Waves. So now let's get to the rest of the starters. Gen 1, the Kanto region. I believe Gen 1 is most likely the one everyone is most familiar with, since it was the first one to come out, but I'll still go over it anyway. The first Pokemon in the Pokédex is Bulbasaur, the Seed Pokemon, a grass and poison type. Bulbasaur uses the bulb on its back to absorb nutrients from sunlight. Bulbasaur evolves into Ivysaur at level 16 and then Venusaur at level 32. Of the Gen 1 starters, the Bulbasaur line is the most balanced with defense and offense. It is weak to fire, ice, flying, and psychic type moves. Probably one of the most famous starter Pokemon, Charmander, the lizard Pokemon, a fire type. The flame on its tail shows how healthy it is. Charmander evolves into Charmeleon at level 16 and then Charizard at level 36. Of the Gen 1 starters, Charmander is the most offensive. Charmander and Charmeleon are weak to water and ground and rock type moves, while Charizard, being a flying type, gains an additional weakness to electric type moves. And the last Gen 1 starter, Squirtle, the tiny turtle Pokemon, a water type. Squirtle protects itself with its sturdy shell and powerful water attacks. Squirtle evolves into a Wartortle at level 16 and then Blastoise at level 36. Of the Gen 1 starters, Squirtle's the bulkiest. That being said, it's weak to electric and grass type moves. Gen 2. And for Generation 2, Chikorita, the leaf Pokemon, a grass type. Chikorita uses a leaf on its head to sense temperature and humidity of its surroundings. Chikorita evolves into Bayleaf at 16 and then Meganium at 32. Of the Gen 2 starters, Chikorita is the most defensive. It is weak to fire, ice, poison, and flying, as well as bug type moves. Cyndaquil, the fire mouse Pokemon, a fire type. It protects itself by igniting the flames on its back when it feels threatened. Cyndaquil evolves into Quilava at 14 and Typhlosion at 36. Cyndaquil is the fastest of the Gen 2 starters. It is weak to water, ground, and rock type moves. Totodile, The Big Jaw Pokemon, a water type. Totodile may be playful, but its powerful jaws can crush almost anything. Totodile evolves into Croconaw at level 18 and Feraligatr at level 30. Of the Gen 2 starters, it is the strongest physical attacker. It is weak to grass and electric type moves. Gen 3. Trico, the wood gecko Pokemon, a grass type. Trico can scale walls and ceilings using its sticky pads on its feet. Trico evolves into Grovyle at level 16 and Sceptile at level 36. Of the Gen 3 starters, the Trico line is the fastest, weak to fire, ice, poison, flying, and bug type moves. Torchic, the chick Pokemon, a fire type. Torchic stores intense heat inside of its body and can breathe scorching flames. Torchic evolves into Combuskin at level 16 and then Blaziken at level 36. Of the Gen 3 starters, Torchic line is very strong, offensively being a mixed attacker. It's weak to water, ground, and rock type moves. Mudkip, the mudfish Pokemon, a water type. Mudkip uses the fin on its head to sense movement in the water and air. Mudkip evolves into Marshtomp at level 16 and Swampert at 36. Of the Gen 3 starters, Swampert is the bulkiest and most balanced. As a water and ground type, Swampert's line has only one weakness. It's quad effective grass type. Gen 4. Turtwig, the tiny leaf Pokemon, a grass type. The twig on its head absorbs sunlight through photosynthesis. Torchic evolves into Grotle at 18 and Torterra at 32. Of the Gen 4 starters, the Turtwig line is the most defensive. The first two stages being weak to fire, flying, bug, ice, and poison. In the final evolution, Torterra losing the poison weakness and gaining the quad 4 times effective weakness to ice. Chimchar, the chimp Pokemon, a fire type. The flame on its tail is fueled by gases produced in its stomach. Chimchar evolves to Monferno at level 14 and then Infernape at level 36. Of the Gen 4 starters, Chimchar is fastest and most offensive. It is weak to water, ground, flying, and psychic type. Piplup, the penguin Pokemon, a water type. Piplup is a poor walker, often falling down, but with them being so prideful and stubborn, they do not care and still walk with pride. Piplup evolves into Prinplup at level 16 and Empoleon at level 36. Of the Gen 4 starters, the Piplup line is the most specially defensive, weak to electric, fighting, ground type moves. Unfortunately, for the next 3 generations, I cannot find the 3D animation for the starter Pokemon, and they will be using their official artworks. Gen 5. Snivy, the grass snake Pokemon, a grass type. Snivy uses sunlight to increase its energy and speed. Snivy evolves into Servine at level 17 and then Serperior at level 36. Of the Gen 5 starters, Snivy is the fastest and most defensive. It is weak to fire, ice, poison, flying, and bug type moves. Tepig, the fire pig Pokemon, a fire type. Tepig could launch fireballs from its snout. Tepig evolves into Pignite at 17 and to Emboar at level 36. Of the Gen 5 starters, the Tepig line has the highest physical attack. It is weak to water, ground, flying, and psychic type moves. Oshawott, the sea otter Pokemon, a water type. It battles using the shell attached to its stomach. Oshawott evolves into Dewott at level 17 and Samurott at level 36. Of the Gen 5 starters, Oshawott is mostly balanced. It's weak to electric and grass type moves. Gen 6. Chespin, the spiny nut Pokemon, a grass type. Chespin's tough shell protects it from attacks while it charges into battle. Chespin evolves to Quilladin at level 16 and then Chesnaught at level 36. Of the Gen 6 starters, Chespin line is the most bulkiest and defensive. It is weak to fire, ice, poison, flying, psychic, and fairy type moves. Fennekin, the fox Pokemon, a fire type. Fennekin releases hot air from its ears to intimidate opponents. Fennekin evolves into Braixen at level 16, then Delphox at level 36. Fennekin line has the highest special attack, weak to water, ground, rock, ghost, and dark type moves. Froakie, the bubble frog Pokemon, a water type. Froakie protects itself with its bubbles that cushions attacks. Froakie evolves into Frogadier at level 16 and then Greninja at level 36. Froakie is the fastest in his generation. It is weak to electric, grass, fighting, bug, fairy, and electric type moves. Gen 7. Rowlet, the grass squirrel Pokemon, a grass flying type. Rowlet can secretly glide through the air before launching feathered attacks. Rowlet evolves into Dartrix at 17 and Decidueye at 34. It is weak to fire, ice, flying, ghost, and dark type moves. Litten, the fire cat Pokemon, a fire type. Litten stores combustible fur inside of its body and spits fiery hairballs at enemies. Litten evolves into Torracat at level 17 and then Incineroar at level 34. It is weak to water, ground, rock, fighting moves. Poplio, the sea lion Pokemon, a water type. It can create water type balloons that can be used for both play and battle. Poplio evolves into Brionne at level 17 and then Primarina at level 34. Poplio has the highest special attack and it is weak to grass, electric, and poison type. Gen 8. Grookey, the chimp Pokemon, a grass type. Grookey uses the stick it carries to create rhythmic beats that energize plants. Grookey evolved into Thwackey at level 17 and Rillaboom at level 35. It has the highest attack stat in its generation. It is weak to fire, ice, poison, flying, and bug type moves. Scorbunny, the rabbit Pokemon, a fire type. Scorbunny generates heat through its constant movement and it stores it in its feet. Scorbunny evolves into Raboot at level 16 and Cinderace at level 35. It is weak to water, ground, and rock type moves. Sobble, the water lizard Pokemon, a water type. Sobble can blend into its surroundings and disappear when it touches water. Sobble evolves into Drizzile at level 16 and Inteleon at level 35. It is the highest special attack in its generation. It is weak to electric and grass type moves. Gen 9. This is the latest generation as of now. Sprigatito, the grass cat Pokemon, a grass type. Sprigatito releases a sweet aroma from its fur that can calm those around it. Sprigatito evolves into Florgato at level 16 and Mouscarada at level 36. Sprigatito line is the fastest of all of Gen 9 starters. It is weak to fire, ice, poison, flying, bug, and fairy type moves. Fuecoco, the fire croc Pokemon, a fire type. Fuecoco absorbs the heat and converts it into fire energy stored inside of its body. Fuecoco evolves into Crocalor at level 16 and Skeledirge at level 36. Of its generation starters, it has the highest special attack and best overall bulk. It is weak to water, ground, rock, ghost, and dark type moves. Quaxly, the duckling Pokemon, a water type. Quaxly keeps its feathers in immaculate condition thanks to its special gel secreted from its own body. Quaxly evolves into Quaxwell at level 16 and Quaquaval at level 36. It's weak against grass, flying, electric, psychic, and fairy type moves. Though we are missing the Gen 10 starters, since we only have the first evolution stage of them, we can't say for certain their typings and stats and evolutions. We've done Bulbasaur all the way to Quaxly. We looked at every starter Pokemon, their evolutions, their strengths, and weaknesses. But we aren't done yet. There are special forms that many starter Pokemon have received over the years, starting with Mega Evolution. These are temporary transformations that give them higher stats and sometimes even new typings. Charizard was so popular, in fact, that it received 2 different Mega Evolutions. So far, Venusaur, Charizard, Blastoise, Sceptile, Blaziken, Swampert, Meganium, Feraligatr, Emboar, Chestnut, Delphox, and Greninja all have Mega Evolutions. There is another special form that some Pokemon have, being called Gigantamax. This changes the Pokemon, allowing them to grow enormous in size, all having unique attacks. Venusaur, Blastoise, Rillaboom, Cinderace, and Teleon all receive these forms. This is less of a gimmick, but there are also Hisuian forms of some of the starters. This is a regional form being introduced to show a new take on some of the fully evolved starters. Decidueye, Typhlosion, and Samurott. I like all of these alternate forms because after the starters introduced, Pokemon can still change their designs and battle styles. Now that we've looked at every starter, let's talk about a little more in the design aspect. Since looking at all the final evolutions, some trainers love the classic reptilian Charizard Feraligatr design, but some people might go the more anthropomorphic way with the animal people such as Delphox and Cinderace. But all of the starter Pokemon are often designed to represent a main theme, such as Greninja becomes a ninja, Incineroar becomes a type of wrestler, Decidueye becomes an archer, Skeledirge becomes a singing crocodile thing. But there's all types of starters. Some that excel in certain areas where others lack. There's cute ones, cool ones, fast ones, slow ones, and it's all up to you to decide. Another question I want to know, you can leave it in the comments below, is who is your favorite starter? And if you're new here, subscribe for more Pokemon lessons, Pokédex deep dives, and more beginner-friendly guides. Until next time, I'm Professor Gold.